There is an ancient suspicion, whispered beneath temples, hidden in symbols, and encoded in the oldest spiritual sciences, that breath is more than air. It is memory, not the memory of the thinking mind, not the inventory of names, dates, and passing events, but a deeper remembrance, older than language, older than identity, perhaps older than the body itself. Breath is the rhythm that greets us before thought forms. It is there before belief, before fear, before the world tells us who we are. And because it comes before all conditioning, the ancients regarded it as a royal road back to what has never been corrupted. To breathe unconsciously is to live only on the surface of life. But to observe the breath carefully is to discover a strange fact. Every emotion alters it. Every thought reshapes it. Every wound leaves its fingerprint upon it. Panic shortens it. Grief breaks it. Desire heats it. Peace deepens it. The breath behaves almost like a living scroll, recording the hidden movements of the soul in real time. And so the mystery begins. If breath is changed by our inner state, could it also change our inner state in return? This is where the secret opens. In the sacred imagination of the ancient world, breath was never viewed as merely mechanical. It was a bridge, a threshold, the point where invisible life entered visible form. Many traditions gave it divine status because it seemed to carry an intelligence of its own. Breath arrives, departs, and returns without command, yet when we consciously enter into relationship with it, something remarkable happens. The scattered self begins to gather. The mind becomes less tyrannical. The body softens its vigilance. The nervous system listens. It is as though a forgotten order begins quietly reasserting itself. What if healing begins not when we add something new, but when we remember something essential? What if the body is not a broken machine begging for control, but a sacred instrument waiting for the right rhythm? Breath may be that rhythm, not because it is exotic, but because it is intimate. It has been with us through every sorrow, every silence, every transformation. It has watched us become strangers to ourselves, and it waits, patient as eternity, for the moment we finally notice it. This is why the wise treated breath as revelation. Not because breathing is rare, but because true breathing is. Most people inhale survival and exhale exhaustion. They breathe around their lives rather than through them. Yet beneath those shallow repetitions lies another possibility, a breath that does not merely keep us alive, but restores us to life. A breath that does not serve fear, but dissolves it. A breath that remembers the original pattern beneath the distortion. And once that pattern is felt, even faintly, the seeker begins to suspect a magnificent truth. The body has not forgotten how to heal. It is waiting to be spoken to in the language it has always known. And once breath is recognized as more than chemistry, another veil begins to thin. For if breath is the messenger, then what is it carrying? What is this subtle change that follows a deep exhale, this quiet brightness after stillness, this mysterious renewal that cannot be explained by oxygen alone? The ancients answered with a daring proposition. Breath moves energy through an invisible body, a hidden anatomy woven through flesh, yet finer than flesh, intimate with the nerves, the blood, the emotions, and the spirit. Modern language struggles with this idea because it prefers what can be weighed and photographed. But ancient initiates were cartographers of interior experience. They observed that human beings possess not only muscles and organs, but currents, streams of vitality that rise, sink, contract, and expand according to thought, feeling, posture, memory, and intention. Breath was seen as the master key that set these currents in motion. Where breath flowed freely, energy flowed. Where breath became shallow, fractured, or restrained, energy also became obstructed. In this view, exhaustion was not merely physical depletion. It was congestion in the invisible body. This is why so many sacred traditions linked breath with life force. Different names emerged across civilizations, but the insight remained strangely consistent. The body is animated by more than material fuel. Something subtler circulates through it, organizing vitality from within. Breath is the bellows of that inner fire. It fans what is dormant, distributes what is concentrated, and restores movement where stagnation has taken hold. Even without esoteric vocabulary, people recognize this intuitively. A room can feel heavy. A person can feel radiant. A breath can feel blocked in the chest or suddenly open like a window. The invisible is never truly absent. It is simply harder to name. The old wisdom suggests that healing cannot be understood by looking only at the visible body, because symptoms often appear last, after imbalance has already been accumulating in subtler layers. First, the energy loses harmony, then emotion becomes unstable, then thought grows clouded, and finally the physical body begins to speak in a language of pain, fatigue, inflammation, or disease. Breath stands at the threshold of these worlds. It belongs to the body, yet it also influences the mind. It is physical, yet it touches the immaterial. That is why it was revered as a bridge between dimensions of the self. To breathe consciously, then, is to participate in inner architecture. Every inhale invites force inward. Every exhale directs release. Every pause becomes a chamber of transformation. The invisible body listens to these patterns with exquisite sensitivity. Breath can agitate it, scatter it, starve it, or harmonize it. And when harmony returns, something extraordinary becomes possible. The individual no longer feels like a disconnected mind trapped in a body, but like a living field, intelligent and responsive, through which energy moves with purpose. Then healing is no longer just repair. It becomes circulation restored, presence embodied, and life allowed to move again where once it had gone silent. But if breath can restore movement, then it can also reveal where movement was once broken. And this is where the mystery grows darker, more intimate, more psychological. For the ancients understood something that modern life often ignores. Suffering does not vanish when an event ends. It descends. It settles into posture, into reflex, into muscle, into rhythm. It writes itself into the body. And one of its favorite places to hide is the breath. Fear teaches the breath to become small. Grief teaches it to hesitate. Shame teaches it to disappear. Long before the mind can explain what happened, the body has already adapted. It tightens the diaphragm. It hardens the chest. It braces the belly. The person goes on living, speaking, working, smiling even, but the breath has changed its song. It no longer moves like a river. It moves like someone expecting danger. In this sense, trauma is not only a memory in the brain. It is a pattern in the breath, repeated thousands of times until it begins to feel like identity. This is why so many people confuse their wounded state for their natural state. They think they're simply anxious, simply tired, simply numb, simply unable to feel peace. Yet beneath these conclusions is often a more hidden truth. The breath has been enlisted into survival. It has become defensive, economical, vigilant. It no longer trusts the world enough to descend fully into the body. And when breath does not fully enter, energy does not fully circulate. Certain regions grow starved, others overloaded. Emotion becomes trapped in unfinished loops. Thought grows obsessive because the body never receives the signal that the danger has passed. Ancient psychology did not divide spirit from physiology. It saw the human being as a layered unity, where emotional injury could become energetic constriction, and energetic constriction could eventually become bodily illness. A sorrow never expressed might linger as heaviness in the chest. A terror never resolved might leave the nervous system forever preparing for an invisible blow. A lifetime of self-suppression might train the breath to remain shallow, as if full aliveness itself were unsafe. Thus wounds become rhythms. Rhythms become character. Character becomes fate, unless something interrupts the pattern. And yet the breath, which has carried the wound, also carries the clue. Because every distortion in breathing is a message. It tells us where life has been interrupted. It reveals which emotions were exiled, which truths were swallowed, which moments were never fully metabolized. The body is not betraying us when it tightens. It is remembering on our behalf. It is guarding a threshold the conscious mind may have forgotten even exists. To notice this is already a profound shift. The seeker stops asking, "What is wrong with me?" and begins asking, "What has my breath been trying to protect?" In that question, condemnation gives way to reverence. Symptoms become symbols. Constriction becomes testimony. The breath is no longer an enemy to be forced open, but a witness to hidden history. And once this is understood, healing is no longer about silencing pain. It becomes an act of listening to the wound, to the body, to the imprisoned rhythm waiting for permission to become life again. And once the seeker realizes that breath carries both the wound and the key, a more astonishing possibility appears. Breathing can become alchemy, not metaphorically alone, but psychologically, energetically, almost ritually. For alchemy was never only about turning base metal into gold. At its deepest level, it was the art of transmuting what is dense, chaotic, fragmented, and unconscious into something luminous, ordered, and whole. Conscious breathing belongs to this ancient operation. It takes the raw material of inner disorder and subjects it to rhythm, attention, and presence until a different state begins to emerge. Most people live in atmospheric turbulence without realizing it. Their thoughts pull in one direction, their emotions in another, their body in another still. The result is inner contradiction. The mind says relax, the nerves say defend, the heart says grieve, the will says continue. This conflict drains vitality because energy thrives in coherence and fractures under division. Conscious breathing interrupts that fracture. It does not argue with the mind. It does not suppress emotion. It does something subtler and more powerful. It introduces order through rhythm. A slow, deliberate inhale gathers what is scattered. A complete exhale releases what is clenched. A measured cadence begins to signal to the whole organism that it may reorganize itself around something deeper than panic. At first, the change seems small, almost too simple to matter. But the old wisdom insists that rhythm is never small. Rhythm governs tides, heartbeats, seasons, sleep, fertility, speech, and prayer. When breath regains sacred rhythm, the human being begins to re-enter alignment with laws older than anxiety. This is why conscious breathing has such a paradoxical power. It is effortless and demanding at once. The act itself is simple, yet to remain present with the breath, especially when discomfort rises, requires courage. Because what begins as technique soon becomes confrontation. The moment breathing deepens, buried agitation may surface. Restlessness may intensify. Unfelt sorrow may stir in the ribs. Forgotten fear may flash through the belly. The alchemical fire has been lit. Breath is no longer only moving air. It is exposing what had been hidden in the chambers of the self. And here awareness becomes medicine. Not analysis alone, not control, but awareness joined to breath. When a person can remain conscious within sensation rather than fleeing it, energy that was frozen begins to thaw. When they can exhale without collapse and inhale without fear, the body learns a new lesson. Presence is safe. This lesson is medicinal in the deepest sense. It re-educates the nervous system. It restores dialogue between mind and flesh. It invites dormant vitality to rise not as frenzy, but as living intelligence. Then the seeker discovers that healing is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is the quiet miracle of becoming inhabitable to oneself again. Breath by breath, The interior battlefield becomes a sanctuary. Chaos does not vanish by force. It is refined by rhythm. Fear does not disappear because it was denied. It loses dominion because something wiser has taken the throne. And that wiser force enters on the oldest current of all, the breath, consciously received, consciously released, until awareness itself begins to heal what effort never could. And when awareness has learned to ride the breath rather than be dragged by the storm, the final secret begins to reveal itself. Healing is not conquest. It is reunion. The modern mind often imagines healing as a war against symptoms, a campaign to defeat pain, eliminate weakness, and force the body back into obedience. But the deeper traditions carried another vision, one far more mysterious and far more compassionate. They saw illness, exhaustion, and fragmentation not simply as enemies, but as signs of estrangement from a living order already woven into our being. The body does not heal by hatred. It heals by intelligence. A wound closes because life knows how to knit what has been torn. A fever rises because the organism is not passive, but responsive. Fatigue descends because some part of the system is demanding rebalancing. Even suffering, as merciless as it can feel, often carries a hidden message. Something in us has fallen out of rhythm with the laws that sustain vitality. Breath becomes sacred here because it is the simplest way back into that order. It is the daily rite through which chaos can remember proportion. In this sense, healing is not the manufacture of wholeness, but the removal of interference. The soul does not need to be imported. The life force does not need to be invented. The body does not need to be bullied into wisdom. What is needed is consent, an inner allowing, a restoration of conditions in which the original design can begin working again. Breath opens those conditions. When it deepens, the mind softens its grip. When it steadies, the nerves cease scattering their alarms. When it becomes conscious, the person no longer lives as a divided creature, but as a single field of listening. This is why the old initiates treated healing as sacred philosophy, not mere remedy. To heal was to return to right relationship with the body, with emotion, with thought, with nature, with the unseen source from which life continually pours itself into form. Breath was the mediator of this reunion because it touches every layer at once. It enters the blood, calms the heart, alters the mind, and opens a silence in which the spirit can once again be felt. Through breath, a person learns that they are not sealed off from the cosmos. They're participating in it. The same law that moves stars in measure asks the lungs to open and close in measure. And so the final revelation is almost unbearably simple. What heals us is not merely technique, nor belief, nor even effort alone. What heals us is re-entry into living order. Breath is the gate. Energy is the current. Awareness is the witness. When they join, the forgotten harmony returns, not as theory, but as experience. Then the seeker understands what the wise had guarded all along. Healing is the moment life within us is finally allowed to do what it has always longed to do, be whole. In the end, perhaps the greatest mystery is that the secret was never hidden because it was far away. It was hidden because it was near, so constant, so intimate that the mind overlooked it. Every breath was an invitation. Every inhale a summoning. Every exhale a release. And all the while, beneath anxiety, beneath fatigue, beneath the long history of pain and striving, the body kept waiting for remembrance. Not remembrance of information, but of order. To breathe consciously is to step out of exile for a moment. It is to feel that life is not merely happening to you, but through you. The chest opens, the belly softens, the mind loosens its clenched fist, and suddenly healing is no longer a distant miracle granted to the fortunate. It becomes a law of return, a quiet law, patient and exact, asking only that you stop resisting the intelligence already moving within you. This is why breath has always belonged to sages, healers, mystics, and those who stood at the threshold between worlds. It is ordinary enough for a child, yet profound enough for a god. It binds flesh to spirit, body to mind, suffering to transformation. It is both the humblest act and the grandest symbol. Invisible, essential, ceaseless, alive. And maybe that is what Thoth revealed. Not merely that breath influences energy or that energy influences healing, but that all three are expressions of one underlying harmony. Disturb that harmony, and the human being fractures. Restore it, and something ancient begins to shine again. So listen closely to your next breath. It may be carrying more than air. It may be carrying the memory of wholeness itself.